This ain't no joke, this ain't no game. This that CSZ game. They said pull up, so I came. You better put some respect on their name. Yeah, 55 was goody. Kill the vibe, how could he? Big Cardinal on the hoodie. Let me break it down for you fully. This ain't your average broadcast. This ain't just no podcast. The mother shows spread fake news. We just call them broadcasts. West, Joey, Sam, Sean, Dalton, and you know that boy Higgy. He said he don't want no small fries. Tell them they better make them biggie. Yeah, you already know what we be on. We got the crown, we hold the throne. We throw them bells and you take them home. When they ring the bells, you know that it's home. The bar set, we setting the tone. If we set it, then set it in stone. Now sit in the seat and set up your phone. You in the Cardinal Sportszone. Set it.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of the Cardinal Sportszone podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Wallman. Today's show, we bring you another edition of GameDay Prep. We started that a couple weeks ago. Y'all seem to really, really like it. And since I got a lot of friends across the ACC nation, ACC Nation, actually, is what we were going to say, due to our next guest coming up. Since I have so many friends across ACC Nation, I felt like it was only apropos that I put something like this together, and you all love it, and I'm glad I could bring it to you. Also glad I could bring you that fire intro from our guy B. Sim here in Louisville. He produces a lot of the Louisville promotional music, highlight videos, stuff like that. We really appreciate him collaborating with us on that. I had a friend that a little older hit me up earlier in the week and was like, "You've got to shorten your intro. It's too long." I'm like, "No, the intro's fire. I'm not going to do that. You're old. Stop." Sorry about that, Jeff. I didn't mean to call you out on the radio, but it is what it is. Again, another exciting edition of GameDay Prep. Today we're going to talk to writer and podcaster over at our friends with the ACC Nation and self-proclaimed judger of beers, Will Ojanen. Will, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing great, and I'm going to just say for the record that I am on your side with the intro. That is straight fire.
I appreciate that. After the show, I have to tell you who it was. Really, it wasn't Jeff. I always pick on Jeff, but it was somebody else. It was a mutual friend of ours that was like, I could just see him shaking his fist at me, too. I don't like it that long. It's not you got to shorten it. And I'm like, no.
The very old man yells at cloud thing.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. But again, we're talking to Will because he's our Virginia guy. And Virginia's for lovers. That's what they say. And we love our people from Virginia. We really have been in the ACC for a few years now, and there's not really that one team that I just despise. If it was going to be Virginia, they would be the nicest group of people. You'd want to be hateful the most nice way you could be to them. Like, you'd have to tell corny jokes too, like, yeah, we're going to beat you, and y'all are going to go double park your cars or something lame like that. 'Cause you just can't. They're good people. I have family that are from Virginia, and they're awesome. So, and Will's represents Virginia, so I'm not going to say anything bad about Virginia just yet. I mean, I may later. It just depends on what he says. I may have to combat that with a couple of things, but
yeah, I represent Virginia, even though I live about 1,000 miles away from it.
That is true, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. Though we're going to talk about this game. It's taking place at 3 p.m. Eastern time, 2 p.m. your time, 2 p.m. where I'm going to be, because I will also be watching this game for the second straight week from the Central Time Zone. But I too am going to be watching it from Minnesota on the ACC network. Y'all have that up there, right?
Yes, we do.
I'm coming. I will be up there in Albert Lee, Minnesota. We're scouting some places. My wife's going to do some travel nursing, and that will be her home for the next few months. And I'm going to be coming up, going back and forth as much as I possibly can. But I will be there Saturday to watch Louisville, and hopefully the results are not the same as they were when I was in the Central Time Zone. This past week, Wake Forest game, I don't know what you call that. That was just, I hate that game had to end the way it did, because it was such a good game back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And for as many
best game of the week,
and for as many that game, that's one of them. And I hate to be the guys like, we would have won the game if it wasn't for the refs. But there were, and I will say this too. I want to be fair. There were some calls. There was a horrible non-pass interference call in the first quarter that should have been called on us, and it wasn't. I just knew for sure. Now I thought it was close. I thought it was a bang play, but I was like, well, we're on their home field. That's going to be called. And it wasn't, but that crew blew a lot of calls. I would say 8 out of 10 of them were against us, but that's in the past. We're not even talking about them. And you know what? I despise Dave Clawson now, so I take that back. I said earlier there's not that one team that we hate yet, and I don't really hate Wake Forest. Dave Clawson is an grown adult baby wearing diapers, running around red Madden nude online. He is just, I can't stand him.
Tell us how you really feel, Jeremy.
I'm trying to censor myself because I do that very well. But just, oh my, I have never seen a grown man that coaches young men act like such a toddler after every single call. And how in God's name did he get the referee to agree to call a timeout before the play? And not even the referee couldn't even. Normally, if you do something like that, the ref has to turn around and see you blow the whistle. The whistle was blown. The clock was on 000. You know what? Let's get to the good. Forget them. Forget Clawson. Throw him in a pile in a trash can and float him up to Ohio. We're talking about Virginia. So I'm going to ask you a hard-hitting question up front because that's how I do things. So,
all right.
Hard-hitting question. Do you remember how me and you met?
Through Twitter, definitely, obviously.
Oh boy.
Was it through? I don't know. I don't 100% remember off the top of my head.
Will.
Huh.
Will O.
Yep.
Will O. I am.
I know it was through. I know you've been on the podcast before.
There you go.
A couple of times, but I didn't know if that was specifically.
That's how we first met. Yes, that's how we first met. I wish I had one of them fancy soundboards where I could be like ding 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 ding.
Yep.
Because
you had a bunch of your crew over on the show with you.
Yeah, I deeply regret. You can see that that's not the case today. This is just one-on-one. I deeply regretted that after the show because don't let them know I said this, but they are a lot to deal with. And I've kind of got I won't say an ego, but I really, really think a lot of myself in the work I do. And I've worked hard my whole life to get where I'm at. I'm a lot to handle, but those guys are just, let's talk about this game. So, no. But yeah, that's how we met. I was a guest on a podcast with you and Jim, which
and you had been on a couple of times before, but I wasn't able to be on it.
That's it. That's correct. And we had been in a group chat with Jim talking about how one time you weren't able to be on it, then the next time I had something come up with my dad and his health, then the next time you had something come up, and then I just could have sworn that you didn't want anything to do with me, so I was like, okay, I'll just never talk to this guy again. No, but that is it. That is it. So I'm glad you finally remembered after I had to squeeze it out of you. Question number 2, and I'm going to ask. I forgot to explain this. I asked 10 questions. The first 5 are just like funny, easygoing questions. The last 5 are going to be about the game. So question number 2, and I have asked this on every edition so far of Game Day Prep. What are your overall thoughts on Louisville to the ACC?
I think it's far and away a big positive for the conference. I look at it this way. If I'm going to add somebody to the conference, I want somebody who's going to be good consistently in both of the major sports, being football and basketball. And that's been the case with both. And obviously, it's been great because Louisville's been consistently good. They had a little bit of a fallback for a couple of years in football. The basketball team, well, let's be real, they should have made the tournament last year, but that's saying. But yes. And then obviously the women's hoops team has been, among the best in the league too. So I throw out all the controversies, that's whatever. I'm not gonna get into that, but just in terms of what it's brought a lot more great competition and rivalries. I think the Virginia-Louisville rivalry is budding, to be honest with you. I just looking at it from a different side, because obviously there is some somewhat close geography between Charlottesville and Louisville, and I'm doing my best to say it right.
Closer than most. It's closer than most people that get it. Yeah.
It's like I'm kind of that weird half southern, half northern accent. There are certain words. I've lived in Minnesota for 22 years now, and I still have words that I say that make you know I'm from the South.
There you
But
go.
I've also been here long enough where there are certain words that come out that you can tell I live in the North.
See,
But anyway, so yeah, to answer your question, yes, definitely a net positive.
and I also want, because I would be remiss if I didn't. Number 3 women's volleyball team is the number 3 team in the country, number 1 team in the ACC right now, and is a perennial top 25 team. The field hockey team, every team in the ACC is in the top 20 every year. So I mean, that's been a great league for us to be in, because we were already stepping our game up in the Big East and in the AAC, and then we come to the ACC and we didn't miss a beat. We hopped right in there. So lots of great programs we have here. The baseball team is just every other year going to the College World Series. So, I mean, I cannot complain. As you said, there have been some controversies and things. We've self-imposed a ban that we shouldn't have. Then we got left out of a tournament we shouldn't have been left out of in basketball. And then we got Bobby Petrino, too. So it's been rough for us up here, man. It's been rough.
Yeah.
Or down here. I forget you're in Minnesota. I'm trying to become a Minnesota expert, and I don't think I'm doing too well. I've tried. I was down in Florida this past week, as I mentioned. My wife took this job, so she wanted to go on one last little relaxing vacation before she came up there to do God's work in Minnesota. And we went to this place down there called Chicken Salad Chick. And I know what you're saying. What do they serve there? Oddly enough, it's tuna. No, it is chicken salad. They have about 20 different varieties of chicken salad. And this lady came up to the register and was like, "Thank you for coming to Chicken Salad Chick. Can I take you?" I do a horrible Minnesota accent, by the way. That was supposed to be my Minnesota accent. She was like, "Minnesota," or something like that. I tried to do it well. So then I said, "Oh," I said, "you have a very interesting accent." "I do?" I'm like, see, that just kind of sounded Jamaican. I don't know what I'm doing over here, man. I cannot do accents at all. So I will stop trying. So I said, so I'm a guess here. You're from Minnesota. She's like, "No." And I'm like, "Oh, you're from Wisconsin." "No." "Well, where are you from?" She's like, "Clearwater." I'm like, but I swear to you, it sounded just like the ladies. Okay, so I want to make sure I have this correct. The hotel that my wife is staying in, it's a safe. All the traveling nurses stay there. I think it's Comfort Inn and Suites up there in Albert Lee, but they're the most Minnesota people I've ever heard in my entire life. When they answered the phone, my heart skipped a beat. I love the Minnesota accent. I love the northern Illinois accent. My aunt, they live in Braidwood up in northern Illinois, and then I have friends that live in Wisconsin, and I just love all the northern accents up. Not once you get up to like Pennsylvania and New York and stuff like that, but as soon as she answered the phone, she was like, "My name's Destiny. How can I help you?" I was like, "You know what? It has been destiny. It's destiny that you picked up this phone because I think I love you." And then my wife punched me in the arm to remind me that I was actually married to her. And I said, "Okay, let's book this room." But man, we took the.
You know?
I'm really trying. I don't know that I'm gonna be able to walk in and just say "Skol" or "Go Vikes." I'm a Steelers fan. That would be against my bloodline as it is, but we took this train way off the tracks, but I don't care because I love Minnesota. I'm going to be a part-time Minnesotan. I'm going to go to the Mall of America, and I'm going to spend 8 days and only see 3 stores. It's going to be great.
Dude, if you seriously going to hit the mall, hit me up. I literally live like 15 minutes from there.
Absolutely. If we have the time, we will link up one of the times I'm up there. We're going up there this weekend just for we're driving up Friday.
Yeah.
We're driving back Sunday, and then she flies out Tuesday for good. So I told her I want to try to fit it in Saturday, and she's like, "Well, we'll see. I've got a lot to do." I'm like, "Well, you're selfish." And then I remembered she's like traveling 1,000 miles away
Yeah.
to do work for the needy. And I was like, well, maybe you're not selfish, and I'm a jerk.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not going to say no, but
All right, question number 3. I know it seems like a long time since question number 2, but so our first choice for a crossover opponent in the ACC was Miami, just because of the Florida connections. At one point, 75% of our team was from Florida. I was a little aggravated at first, but I have grown to love this rivalry in football. It's pretty even. Louisville leads the series 4-3 in the ACC era, and I think 5-4 overall. There was a very, very good first game in Charlottesville when the Cards won. We lost that first game. Then the Cards won 3 straight, and then since then it's been alternating win-losses. You touched on it a little bit, but what has this rivalry meant from the Virginia side?
I think it's really meant, a lot, because it gives us an Atlantic Division rival. There really isn't one, I would say. I mean, I guess the closest one would be NC State, and that's not really much of a rivalry.
No, it's not.
Like all the other ones are obviously Virginia Tech, and that's not exactly gone Virginia's way the last 2 decades. Let's be real here. And
that's fair.
Obviously Carolina, and obviously they won. I think it was 4 in a row until this year. But I would say, just like I say, it's a good rivalry because it's, like I say, there's a lot of good geography between the two, and obviously we've seen a lot of competitive ball games between them recently. I remember the one where Virginia was winning most of the game, and then Lamar Jackson went down and stole one. I think it was his junior year, if I'm not mistaken.
Is that the pass to the end zone to Jalen Smith in the corner?
You might be right. I just happened to remember. I believe I was traveling that day when it happened, because I had this history of being on the road when Virginia's pulled off these near upsets. Because I think that weekend I was going to Iowa to visit some friends, and then the year where they nearly beat Notre Dame, and then there was the infamous guy hanging over the thing. I was actually traveling to Alexandria to meet our good friend Matthew over from All Sports Discussion.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Drove 2 hours, about 2.5 hours to meet him in person.
That's a long way for him. No, I'm just kidding, Matt.
But no, he's a good guy. I've
good
had
dude. I love
a couple of times, so I actually owe him a dinner because he's paid the last couple times. But that's neither here nor there. But anyways, roundabout way to answer your question, yes, I love it. It's a friendly rivalry. I wouldn't say there's a lot of hatred yet. It hasn't gotten to that point yet, but if Louisville starts winning, a bunch in a row, then maybe there will be some hatred. But yeah, I like it.
I'll say this because and I'm going to look this. I do this on this show because A, it's my show, and B, it's just fun to do. But I'm going to walk through all of the games. Hold on, let's do it this way because then it expands all the tabs. So the first game of the ACC era was in Charlottesville, as I said, 23-21 victory for you all. Then we won 3 in a row, so we thought, okay, we're never losing to Virginia again. And then you all smacked us again in Charlottesville, 27-3. Then we had the 28-21 victory. Which one of these was the last second? Lamar threw one of these.
I think it was 16, I think.
Yeah,
Was it
you're right.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure it was in Charlottesville.
No, it absolutely was in Charlottesville, and that's the only game we've won in Charlottesville. So it had to have been that one in 2016, 32-25. Fast forward, we won 2 years ago, 28-21. Coach Satterfield's first year here in Louisville. That was a great game that you all had the opportunity to win on the last drive, and we just made some really, really big I feel like there was some sort of controversy at the end of that game as well. I don't recall exactly what it was, but I think one of the Virginia receiver. Y'all got a first. Gosh, what was it? It's on the tip of my tongue. I think what it was is we stopped y'all on 3rd down, and the referees, which they were our referees, so they should have not been doing this, but reviewed a spot from a down or two before that and ended up giving y'all a first down on that play to continue the drive. But like I said, good defensive stand, stopped y'all, got the W, and then y'all just mollywopped us last year again. So if you go by the every other game win-loss that we've had the last 4 years, that's boding very well for us. Also, Virginia has never defeated Louisville in Louisville. All their wins have been in Charlottesville. So, including let's see. So we played 2 games before the ACC era in 88 and 89. I was in middle school. Elementary and middle school. We beat y'all here 30-28, and then y'all beat us in Charlottesville. Surprise, surprise, 16-15. So, all right, we got through that part of it. So, but yeah, I like the rivalry because it doesn't feel like it's one sided, like you said. It's been very competitive for the most part, and gosh, man, there's just so many great players on both sides. Speaking of that, who's your favorite Louisville player? And you can't say Lamar Jackson and you can't say Teddy Bridgewater because those are the gimmies. Other than those two, I'm sure there are 1 and 2 on your list. Who's your favorite Louisville player?
Well, you kind of put me in a bind because I was actually thinking Teddy because he was, a Vikings draft pick several years ago. Now you're going to have to put me in a spot where I have to think. Let's see. I'm trying to think because
that's what I do.
You're making me think, and I'm too tired to think. Dang it! No, I'm just kidding. I do probably shoot. You're making me think, and I don't.
Come on, Will. You know more than 2 Louisville players. I gave you one
know
earlier.
Louisville players, but I'm just trying to think of. I'm always the weird type of guy. I always think of active players. I don't think of players who
you
are
can give me active. That's fine.
Devontae Parker, somebody I think is
there
really good.
There you go.
nice,
That's who I was looking for.
Yep. He's the first one that came to mind. I was trying to think. Yeah, that'd probably be the one. Although I do love Mekhi Becton. I was hoping the Vikings would be able to draft him when he came out.
Yeah, Mekhi, such a good. His family is a good family too. I sat with his freshman year. I sat with his mom and dad during. Well, actually, it was spring practice before his freshman year, and just the coolest people I've ever met, and they're friendly. I actually still talk to his mom to this day. So she listens to the show. She'll probably be listening to this. So hi, Mama Becton. If I don't shout her out, she'll probably say something to me. So I'm going to go ahead and get that taken care of. It's funny that you mentioned her. I'm trying to remember the guy's name for Virginia. I don't have a lot of favorite Virginia players, but Grayson Lambert. That guy broke my heart, and I had to admire his guts because he came out there and he took over the game. I think he ran for a score and threw for a score that game.
Jeez.
Yeah, would I be in the minority? Like, if you ask Virginia fans if they liked Grayson Lambert, would they say yes, or would they be like, no, I don't know what Jeremy's talking about. He sucked.
I mean, probably lean towards the latter. I mean, he was, but this was let's be fair, this was toward the end of the Mike London era when there weren't a whole lot of good offensive players. I mean,
that's fair. How
many years did Virginia go without having a good quarterback? I mean, probably, let's see, Bankert was good for his couple of years. Then Bryce Perkins, but before Bankert, God, it had to have been
Bryce Perkins.
At least probably probably when Al Groh was still coaching. Matt Schaub, probably.
I'm changing my pick to Bryce Perkins. I don't know how I forgot him. I'm changing. That's my, and I'm locking that in. I'm not going to change it again unless you name somebody better.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I mean, I remember there was a play in the Louisville game where he jumped a guy on a big run, and that's probably my favorite play of his, and I apologize for bringing it up, Jeremy, but
No,
it's
that's
just
fine.
a cool play.
No, trust me, we still talk about the Lamar leap to this day, and it happened like 4 or 5 years ago. So I get it. Well, y'all had another. It was Virginia that had a pretty cool play this past week, wasn't it? Against Miami, didn't?
Yeah, the should have been an interception, but ended up a touchdown.
Yeah, it rolled off the guy's back, butt, and right into his hand.
Yes.
See, and I'm gonna tell y'all that we did not practice it. This is called improv. This is called synergy. We just have chemistry, me and Will do, because we did not rehearse that. But that was I did see that, and I was like, man, this is a really, really cool play. And I thought, I was like, I'm gonna bring that up. So I'm glad you brought that up first. If question number 5, Mom, I'm trying to do an interview. Can you leave me alone, gosh? She's just texting me, and I'm like, I'm not answering her because I'm doing this. So, question number 5: if Card fans make the trek next season down to Charlottesville, what do they need to see? Where do they need to eat? We love to eat, Will. Louisvillians love to eat. Where do we need to go?
Well, let me answer the first question first. I think obviously Charlottesville's got a lot of histories around it. Obviously, Monticello is obviously Thomas Jefferson's home. That's not far away from the UVA grounds. Montpelier is another one. I think it's James Madison's home. Yep. I went there 4 years ago on a trip when my wife and I 4 years ago cross-country trip from Minnesota to Virginia, and that was one of the more fun vacations I ever took. But anyways, food-wise, you got to stop at Bodo's Bagels for breakfast. That is one of the better bagel places you're going to find out there. I mean, some of the locals will consider it overrated, but I usually get it every time I go there. It's a good breakfast spot. There's one not too far from what's called Grounds, but there's a couple other locations, out and about in Charlottesville. As far as food, I like if you're looking just for like a quick bite to eat, and and if you're like a beer person, you want to go to a place called Draft Tap Room. It's right like in the downtown mall in Charlottesville. It has, I don't remember the exact number, but there's a ton of taps in there, and you obviously get like your food, and then you get the you can drink however many different kinds of beer you want, and it's a really cool place. I got to go there when I was last in Virginia like 2 years ago, and definitely a good place for you to eat.
There you go, and that's one thing. If you know anything about most Louisvillians, you know that we love to do a couple things. We love to watch horse races. We love our athletics, watching the University of Louisville athletics, and we love to eat, and we love to drink. And I don't drink myself, which I know is always a bummer when I tell people that who are enthusiastic about beer and stuff. I never did, and not something that I've ever I don't know why that never crossed into existence for me, but it's just like we do not. I'm like the only person here in Louisville that don't drink beer. So for everybody that listens to the show, go ahead.
I was gonna say everyone has their thing. I mean, it's okay if you don't wanna drink. That's perfectly fine. I'm sure not going to judge you for it.
Thank you, Will. I was worried that you were going to the FSU guy a couple weeks ago, TJ Pettinger. He judged me hard, and I felt like I deserved it. So I just wanted to make sure that we're good on that. But everybody else here drinks. So you just gave everybody the golden key. Our fans may not even show up to the game. It's hard to get them into the stadium for our games here because they tailgate for 6 hours before the game. They're good and drunk and full of food and sleep, hung over the railings and the cabooses out in the parking lot. it's a good time. We try to have a good time here at Louisville. But
okay, let me give you one more place.
Okay,
That,
okay.
For a place to eat, and I would it's called Cardinal Hall. It's Cardinal with a K. It's I think it's, I'm trying to remember exactly. I think it's more like, it's kind of like a German themed. So, it's got pretty good food. I remember I went there, during my year trip 4 years ago, and we had a good meal there.
Cardinal with a K. I'm not sure. I'll just have to be honest with you. We hate a lot of things around here that starts with the letter K. So I'm not really sure we could rock with Cardinal with a K. But, I'll give it for you. I'll give it a try because I like trying different places. I'm looking forward to trying some places. Obviously, I'm only going to be up there for a day, but I'm going to try to find somewhere to watch the game and go out to dinner that evening. But really quick, since we're at halftime of the show, let's thank the fine sponsors of the Cardinal Sportszone podcast: Fitness Market, Shack in the Back Barbecue, Four Pegs Beer Lounge, Derby City Lawn and Landscaping, All American Pool and Supply Company, and Mountain Dew Kickstart. No, that last one's a lie. But Mountain Dew, if y'all are listening, holler at me. I drink one every show I do. It keeps me energized. What's the tagline? Reading the can for. You know what? It just Mountain Dew Kickstart. It makes you better. That's my new slogan for that. Hit me up. My phone number is public. Mountain Dew. Let's get something going on there. All right, Will. Let's get to talking shop now. Sitting at 3-2. Both teams are sitting at 3-2 right now. You all got a big win over the Hurricanes this past week. We lost the game to to Wake Forest. Okay, so here's my question first before I get to the rest of that one. Can I call them the Cavs? Is that a no? Can I call them the Cavs, or do we just roll with the Who's?
I mean, if you're just gonna say, if you're speaking to me, I don't care what you can call them the Cavs. That's fine. That tends to be what we call them because that's kind of a short form of the Cavaliers. So you might as well just do it.
Absolutely. I just never know if I should go with the Cavs or if I should go with the Who's. What the heck is a Who anyway? I don't know. Can you help me out with that? Can you help our listeners out? Because we have played y'all for like 6 seasons now. Most of us still don't know what in the heck a Who is. Okay,
so basically it dates back to the 19th century.
Okay.
It is basically, somebody said that they were playing like a bunch of I'm trying to remember. I'm actually have it up on Wikipedia as we're talking.
There you go. So, see, the next time you just don't tell me that. You just act like you knew it beforehand, and then everybody's impressed.
Okay, so they were playing like a bunch of rowdy wahoos. This was during the 1890s. It was supposed to be a form of like a derogatory term, but that's where it started. And it just kind of spread now, and just it's the Who's, and like you say, the good old song is has Wahoo Wah in it, and so basically that's kind of where it started.
There you go. You learned something. Look, I try to teach the listeners something every time they tune into the show, so I'm glad you were able to explain that for me.
And I've been asked this before, and it's one of those things that's never been able to stick in my head. I could remember like the most random things, but I can never remember the Who's thing.
I just wanted to make sure because I didn't know, and I didn't want to be disrespectful because, again, I just feel I could talk trash to almost any other team in the league, but when I try to talk trash during a Virginia game, I just feel like I'm trying to talk trash to a family member, and it's just I feel bad. It's like Mom, you eat these mashed potatoes because they're better than yours. Like that doesn't feel right to me. It doesn't. All right, so back to both sitting at 3-2. Y'all had a big win. We had a fluke loss. The two teams give off the same vibe to me, except for I feel like we're a more balanced team, and y'all are very, very pass heavy. What are your thoughts on the team's similarities and differences?
Well, yeah, you may. I think that is the biggest difference. Is Louisville's a more run. They do run more. Virginia is very much pass heavy team. Virginia, the similarities are neither play defense very well. Let's be real. I mean, and it was kind of one of those weird things. I didn't, coming into the season, I think both teams really had questions on defense. And looking at it I'm just going to look at the Louisville side for a minute, and you look at them, giving up all those points and yards to Ole Miss, and the reality is now that we're a few weeks into the season, it's like, okay, Ole Miss has a really good offense, and there might be, you're not going to fill a hand with how many teams would be able to stop them, and one of them actually just did over the weekend.
Right.
And obviously the teams, some of these teams like Wake Forest is just a really good offense. That tempo messes up a lot of teams, and we saw that not only in your instance, but the prior week when Virginia played them on a Friday night in Charlottesville. The tempo just gave them fits. That offense is a good offense. Let's be real, but there's I think the similarities as well is, there's the question, like all the question marks, like you say, are all on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, I think Louisville is a little bit better run defense, not by much, but I think a lot of the differences are, I think Virginia has a better group of receivers than Louisville does. I think Louisville has a better running back stable. At least they show like they're better. I mean, we don't know exactly Virginia because they have so many different people that carry the ball that nobody really gets, the lion's share of the carries other than Lee Cunningham and, the other running back, depending on the day, Jalen Mitchell. It's really those two, whereas Virginia goes Wayne Talapapa, Keaton Thompson, Mike Hollins, Devin Darrington, and Brennan Armstrong will get a carry here or there too, but he hasn't run that much. He got hurt in the Illinois game. He hurt his knee, and he really hasn't been as mobile as he usually is. Otherwise, he has started to run a little bit more. He did have a couple of runs in the Miami game last week that were big, that led to big first downs. But I think that's, I think I laid out some good similarities and differences there.
Absolutely. And I mean, you mentioned the fact that you all have 100 people that rush the ball. That nothing's more evident when you look at the leading rusher for Virginia is Talapapa with 143 yards on the season. So that speaks volumes. But you don't have to run the ball a lot, and you're probably right about the receiver. Now, I don't know that the receivers are better, but when you got a guy back there that's thrown for about 20,000 yards already this season, the receivers, I mean, your leading receiver's got almost 600 yards receiving in 5 games. That's just stupid. Even when we had Chris Redmond here, when we had Teddy Bridgewater here, we didn't have anybody that had 600 yards receiving. Maybe Devontae Parker came close one year through 5 games having 600, but that's ridiculous. So the volume, I would say your receivers have had a lot more opportunities to catch the ball than Louisville's receivers. Louisville's receivers are very young and inexperienced, but I'm telling you, man, Amari Huggins-Bruce, Braden Smith, Tyler Harrell, Josh Johnson, that receiving, by the time that they're all, now Josh is a senior now, but Jordan Travis, I can't believe I almost forgot him. Those other ones are all freshmen. By the time they get to be seniors, they're gonna be a problem as long as we can find a quarter. We still don't have a quality backup quarter. I mean, the guy that we did have, Evan Conley, he is a little beat up, so he's not playing to his full potential. But if we can get a quarterback in there, our receiving core is going to be fantastic here in 2 or 3. I think they're really good right now. They've helped Malik get out of a lot of jams.
And that was really one of the questions with this team that coming into the season, because you lost Tutu Atwell and Destin Fitzpatrick to the NFL. Who was going to step up? And it's really worked that you have these young kids, these freshmen that have really stepped up their game. And I know you've liked to lay into the Satterfield critics. I've listened to some of your recent podcasts, but you know what? This is he's finding something with this receiving core.
I do, and I'm glad that you pointed that out, and I'm glad you picked that up, because I'm a firm believer that, because my head coach here at Louisville, when I played here, was Ron Cooper, and he took over for the should-be Hall of Fame coach Howard Snellenberger. And Ron Cooper got about 2.5 seasons. Now, granted, we went to a bowl game his first season. That was with Howard's player. A lot of people were like, well, that's not his players. That's Howard's players. Well, second year we went 1-10, and that was completely blamed on Coach Cooper, even though we had Chris Redman, we had Ivan Green, we had Arnold Jackson. If you ask any Louisville player to name their top wide receiver, quarterback, running back, defense of all time, those guys ended up being on that 1-10 team. By the time they were seniors, they were all over our record books. But we let him go I feel like we let Cooper go too soon. We've let other coaches go too soon, and I feel like those people out there, those critics that were ready to fire Satterfield after second quarter of the Mississippi game, they're going to have to deal with it, because we're not going to he's going to have to do what we thought he was going to do last year. He's going to have to leave on his own, because for those of y'all that don't know, we've got enough stuff going on here at Louisville. We don't have enough money to pay all the lawyers and coaches' buyouts. We're still paying Petrino. So the worst case scenario for Louisville fans that don't like Satterfield is that he wins 7 games this year and stays. So fans would have to be actively cheering for us to lose, for us to act. Well, no, because if we have a losing record, we're not going to. He's going to have to leave. That's the fact of the matter is, he's going to have to leave on his own fruition, and that's not going to happen. So,
I hear you there, and I think that's a fair assessment. You know, granted, like a lot of the issues aren't necessarily within the football program, but you know, all of the other departments, you know, are kind of having to suffer for it as a result, whether they want to or not.
Absolutely, and I still feel like I said, and I've said this on the regular Cardinal Sports Zone show. I've said that on GameDay Prep. These people that are just hoping for Sat to fail, like you got to give a guy more than 2 years, and with one of those being the COVID year, I mean that's going to be a historical year of all time. That's going to be referenced for the ages. Like you can't expect a guy to come in here and yes, so what? He flirted with South Carolina. Bobby, other than volleyball players, was flirting with LSU, Georgia, Auburn. He had a secret meeting in Indiana somewhere with Tommy Tuberville about taking the Auburn job, and we didn't say nothing to him. Oh, that's right, because he was winning 10 games a year, and we were just happy he wanted to be here. That's the fact of the matter. All right, let's get back on track again, because I'm not trying to take up all your evening, just a small portion of your evening, both the listeners and Will. For those of us Louisvillians who don't know, who is the Virginia MVP right now? And I have a feeling I know who you're going to say, but for those that don't follow the Who's or the Cavs, tell them who they need to keep their eye on Saturday.
Well, you would be correct in that assumption, Jeremy. It is Brennan Armstrong. What he's done so far this season is far beyond what anyone would have expected, and he's set in a span of 2 games and back-to-back games. He had not back-to-back game. He's the first person to have over 400 yards passing in 3 consecutive games in Virginia history. Set a school record with 554 yards passing in the North Carolina game. Granted, they lost that game and had to throw a lot, but nobody expected him to do the things he's done this season. He had 400 yards against Illinois, the 550 against Carolina, and 400 against Wake Forest. And granted, a lot of that was in garbage time when they were behind. But he has trailed off a little bit the last couple of games. I think some of that is a little bit of what would be called a regression to the mean. He only threw for 268 yards against Miami, but some of that had to do with the fact that they were actually running the ball a lot more because Miami cannot tackle, and that Virginia kind of used the running game to its benefit. But so far for the season, he's completed 65% of his passes, and he's thrown for just under 2,000 yards in just 5 games. 14 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, has been, and just like I said, nothing short of amazing so far for the Hoos this season. And he's, Kenny Pickett probably is getting a lot of love right now, and it's some of it is due praise considering what he's done, but Armstrong is right there with him in terms of best quarterbacks in the ACC right now.
Absolutely. And again, I love this game. I love this rivalry. So I'm getting excited. I'm sorry, I'm getting off track again too. What does Louisville have to do to win this game Saturday?
I think it needs, if Louisville is going to win the game, they have to be consistent at running the football. Virginia's run defense has not been very good, and it's been exploited, especially against North Carolina and Wake Forest. I think in the second half of the North Carolina game, the Tar Heels ran for over 200 yards, I think, and they were averaging like almost 9 yards per carry, and that was with both their running back Ty Chandler and Sam Howell. And Sam Howell's not exactly the most fleet of foot, but he was still running for consistently, and even during the Wake Forest game, I mean, they held their star running back, Christian Bill Smith, kind of under check, but it was the other guys who were consistently running the football really well. They were good against the run for a half against Miami, but in the second half, Miami started running the ball a lot better. They started popping some big plays. And some of that, I think, is due with, I think Virginia's been experimenting with a 3-3-5 this season. They've been more of a 3-4. Throughout most of Bronco Mendenhall's time here in Charlottesville, but he's trying to 3-3-5 because I think he wanted to do it to get more athletic type people on the field.
Right.
But the problem is they're just not getting the push up front. They're not the guys on the defensive line are not the type of people who are gonna wreak havoc in the backfield. They're just kind of guys. The linebackers are probably the strength of this team. Noah Taylor and Nick Jackson are the 2 stars. Jackson was preseason all ACC at linebacker. He's a tackling machine, but like I say, a lot of the problem is they can't, by the time they get to them, they're 5-6 yards down the field because the opposing offensive lines are just opening up basically 2-lane highways for running backs to go through. And I think between, Cunningham being able to run the ball well, we kind of saw that a little bit, Howell doing that against North Carolina, and Cunningham is a much better runner than Howell is. So I could see a situation there where Cunningham, gets north of 100 yards in this game, and it would not surprise me.
And Malik is leading Division I NCAA with 10 rushing touchdowns. He's got 2 in every single game so far this year. He has been there's been a number of games where he's been a block away. And the blocking, I will say this, the run block has been a lot better the last 2.5 games than it was the first 2.5 games. He had a couple of 70-yard touchdown runs called back so far this year because of poor blocking. So, yeah, I would say that's what I was thinking too, that Virginia would struggle with the run, but they're surely not going to struggle throwing the ball because our defensive coordinator likes to give about 10 yards of cushion every play. So and real quick, I know everybody else is in love with Wake Forest. I wasn't very impressed with them. I thought that we were 2 or 3 plays away from blowing them out, and they were very, very – they didn't – I will say this. They don't make a whole bunch of mistakes.
Yeah. So
when we were able to cash in that interception and then go down the field and make points out of it, even, no matter what, even though it was just a field goal, like we were able to cash in on their points. I think it was a field goal. I don't think we scored a touchdown because they gave us a penalty because the guy intercepted the ball and then spun it on the ground and put us 15 yards back. So, yeah,
That's
not very
ridiculous.
impressed with Wake Forest, and mostly because of Dave Clawson. He's a clown without makeup. I'm sorry. I'm not really sorry. And then to touch on our something you mentioned earlier, preseason, a lot of people were talking about the Louisville defense being the best defense we've had since Charlie Strong left. They were holding all the open practice or even the closed ones. The offense couldn't score on them, and we were all hype that we were going to have a great defense. And then the season started, and then we're like, well, maybe our offense just isn't that good, but it was. So we were actually the opposite way. We thought our defense was going to be our strength, and it ended up it's definitely our Achilles heel right now. But it's really weird though, because they can have a drive where they look completely dominant, and then that last drive of the fake Forest game, I'm gonna call it about 18 different things throughout the show. Wake Forest converted, I think, 3 third downs on that last drive, and it was like, we're gonna lose this game. We're gonna lose this game. Tyler Harrell scored way too fast, left too much time on the clock, and we're going to lose this game. And that is what happened. But okay, I'm done talking.
Well, you can't tell a guy who runs a 4.240 to slow down. That just doesn't happen.
I know they tried to tell me that when I was in high school, and I was like, I'm not the one. It's the other guy that runs that. It's not me. I can't run that fast. I run a 5.240, not a 4.2. So they're like, Jeremy. I'm like, yes. And they're like, no, the other one. I'm like, oh man. Oh. So. I already asked you what Louisville has to do to win this game. What does Virginia have to do to win the game?
I think it's really simple, and it's play sound football. I mean, Brennan Armstrong has had this tendency of making one kind of head scratching throw per game, and it always tends to be at like the wrong time. I know he had one in the Miami game in the second half. He did struggle in the second half of the Miami game. He was 5 of 14 passing, because I think they made a little bit of an adjustment on him, and he threw an interception that led to a touch. I think it led to a touchdown, but that's been kind of one of his big bugaboos throughout his career, and he can't do that in this game, because to be perfectly blunt, I don't trust the Virginia defense to make enough stops to help the offense. The Virginia defense did not make, or didn't allow, or North Carolina didn't punt in that entire game, and Wake Forest punted like in the last 2 drives in the game when they were already up 3 scores. Now they did get some stops against Miami. I think Miami punted like 5 or 6 times, but we have to put it in context. That was against a third-string quarterback, a redshirt freshman, making his first start of his career. Now, I mean, this is, granted, that wasn't necessarily all on him, because Miami's receivers, they must stick their hands in grease or something before the game, because they just cannot hold on to the football to save their lives. But I think it's just simple as not turning it over, because they can't shoot themselves in the foot and expect to win a ball game.
And the odd thing about that is I feel the exact same. That's why I said earlier, these teams are so similar. It's going to be. I feel like it's going to be. I don't want to say a shootout, because I think that the defenses are both good enough to hold the other team a couple times, but bad enough that they're going to get in the end zone a few times as well. You all don't defend the run well. We do run well. We don't defend the pass well, but you all do pass well. So it's kind of like, which way is this going to go? So I feel the same, which leads me to my final question. Score prediction. Louisville's average score, they average 32 points per game. Virginia averaged 34 points per game. Both teams allow 28 points per game. I'm going to go 30 to 27 Cards. I feel like Virginia may overlook us a little bit after the big win versus Miami, Plus, the alternating win-loss is too much superstition for me to go against Louisville here. Plus, I picked against Louisville last week. I can't do that back-to-back weeks. I may be booted from the fan base. What you say, Will? What's your say?
I might get booted from the Virginia fan base after this podcast, dude.
Oh no.
Well, I mean, if you could, if you're willing to adopt me, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, for sure. I have a basement.
So, anyways, yeah. So, I think I'm gonna take Louisville as well, just because I think it's a home game, and you say Virginia has yet to win there, and I say I need to see them, put up a defensive performance worthy of winning a ball game. And one of the things that I'm curious to see is if there are any changes in this defense. I mean, they did play back-to-back games on short weeks. They played on a Friday followed by a Saturday, Friday, Thursday, and now they have nine days in between those games. So they're going to be able to get a little more rest, and maybe this gives them an opportunity to go through and look at the defense and see what isn't working. But still, I'm very skeptical of this, and I just don't know if there are going to be changes that are going to really work into where it's going to affect them. So I'm going to go 45-31 in favor of Louisville.
Oh, see, I did not know the line when I wrote. Driving back from Florida, I wrote my entire bullet point sheet on the way home. I did not know what the favorite is. You were kind enough to give me the favorite later on in the day. So I picked 30-27 before I saw that. Just too many factors to me. We've never lost to you all at home, which makes me feel like this will be extremely close. Then it came out we were a 3-point favorite, down to a 2-point favorite now, which I'm not sure how you win by 2 points. I guess we could get a safety at the last second to win. I don't know. But just too many factors for me to say this is going to be a blowout. I even went on record as saying on this week's Sunday's Cardinal Sportszone podcast that if there was going to be a blowout, I feel like it would be you all blowing us out because we've had some injuries. We've not played very well in the third quarter of any game this year. So
one of the things to look into as well is our tight end Jilani Woods, who is 6'7", I think he's 6'7", 280. He did not play in the Miami game. He was out with an injury. I don't know. There has not been an update on his status for this game yet. So if he's able to play, that is something to watch for, because there are not many there's not many teams out there that can defend 6'7", 280 going down the field. And one of Virginia's starters on defense, Devontae Cross, missed the game against Miami for personal reasons, and he is expected to play against Louisville, and that will help, but not enough for me to sway it one way or sway it at all. So I'm still sticking with the score.
That's fair.
Were you just thinking about your high school glory?
I was. I was like, man, I wish I was back there again. No, but Will, thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate it. Can you let all the great people here at Card Nation and all over ACC Nation know where they can find all of your work and give out your social media handle as well, please?
Yeah, definitely. So we are accnation.net. We do a podcast twice a week. We do a weekend recap that comes out on Sunday, and then Wednesdays we do a podcast with a guest. We've done, we get some people from around the ACC. We're covering football. We're actually going to start getting into college basketball this week. Our next guest is Tristan Freeman from Busting Brackets, and to kind of start previewing the college hoop season. The Twitter handles you can find are ACC Nation one at ACC Nation. And you can find me on Twitter. I am at Will's World MN. Just look for the guy with the big beard and the glasses, and you found the right place. And I don't always talk UVA. I actually watch a lot of ACC football and basketball, so you'll see a lot of comments from me about what I'm seeing in other ACC games as well.
There you go.
And you can tweet me and tell me I'm wrong. I'm not afraid to admit I'm wrong. I don't see it as closely as other teams, and I'm always willing to learn.
Plus, you're not soft and sensitive like most of social media is, and that's what you're right. I've seen a lot of times people disagree with you, and you're like, okay, I respect your opinion, but
Yeah, whatever.
it is what it is. So, at ACC Nation,
I don't need to start. I don't feel the need to go out and be an a-hole to people for disagreeing with me. I mean, not everyone in life is gonna agree with you, and that's just how it is.
Absolutely. Now, I have aimed every episode of Game Day Prep to be under 45 minutes, and all 4 have been over an hour. This one is the same. I do appreciate your time, though, because you're honestly, that's been one of the best things about joining the ACC has been all the great people. You mentioned Matthew, Jim, you. I mean, oh gosh, what's the guy's name of Boston College I talk to all the time?
You put Jim in the same breath as me? Oh, geez.
No. I mean,
how much did he pay you?
He set me up with the PayPal, but the money never came through. So, AJ Black, and then
AJ's great. He's been on our podcast several times.
And then the guy from Syracuse, Carlson, right?
Yeah. Chris.
Yeah, Chris. Yeah, great. I mean, and then TJ Pettinger from FSU. I just met him this year, actually, just the past few months, and we carried on like we had been best friends since kindergarten. So it's been a pleasure. It's been really nice to not only meet people on Twitter, but talk to them and have good conversations about the things we love: food, beer, sports, all that stuff. Minnesota, I love. I can't wait to go to Minnesota, even if it's for a day. This first time, I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna run around the streets of Albert Lee, just going Minnesota, and I don't care who hates me. I'm just gonna do it anyway. Shout out again.
Well, luckily, it hasn't started snowing yet.
I know. I'm kind of worried for her when it starts snowing, but the lady said that they don't get a whole bunch of snow, but it gets really cold because they're about, I think, 25 miles north of the Iowa border. So she said that they don't get a whole bunch. Now, the other place that my wife was looking into was Eau Claire in Wisconsin, right? Yeah. And that was going to be way worse from what we were told. That was going to be way worse snow-wise. So we're glad she got the Minnesota gig.
The thing of it is, and I'll just tell you right now, the thing about Albert Lee is it's when you're getting down there, but where Albert Lee is, which is where I-35 and I-90 meet, it can be very windy during these storms, and you do get blizzards to the point where the interstates will shut down there. So just a word of warning.
Huh. I wonder how they're but I'm sure though. Here's the thing about it: cities like that, whereas Louisville struggles with like road care because we get snow maybe once or twice a year, and sometimes we don't get it at all. I'm sure they're experts up there in Minnesota with that. They probably have that all cleaned up and knocked out in no time. So So I don't have any worries as far as that's concerned. And I'm sure that me and you'll talk a whole lot more in Minnesota off the air. That's not really the demographic for the show. These people don't care about Minnesota. Just me and you, my wife, and the fine people up there at the Comfort Inn and Suites. But shout out again to all of our fine sponsors: Fitness Market, Shack in the Back Barbecue, Four Pegs Beer Lounge, Derby City Lawn and Landscaping, All American Pool and Supply, and hopefully Mountain Dew Kickstart here pretty soon. If you'd like to sponsor the Cardinal Sportszone podcast, wink, wink, Mountain Dew, give us a call, 502-694-0375. You can get in touch with us on social media. Facebook is at Cardinal Sportszone, 3 separate words. Hit that like button, make it Facebook official. You can find us on YouTube, Cardinal Sports Zone, one word. I know it's confusing. And on Twitter and Instagram, we are Card Sport, singular Sport Zone. We had all of our social media was Card Sports Zone, but that account got hacked, and so we had to get creative with the tag there. But that's how you can find us on social media. You can find us on all the podcast avenues, over 125 in all. The more popular ones are Apple, iTunes, Buzzsprout, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, Google, Amazon, iHeart. Hit subscribe. You can get these shows just as soon as we get through recording them. This one airs on Wednesday night, so you will get this Wednesday morning before everybody else if you're subscribed. We'll put a post up midway through the day for everybody who don't subscribe. I don't know why you wouldn't be subscribed. We're good people. We make good shows. Subscribe to the show, dang it. If you haven't listened to all the prior episodes of the Cardinal Sports Zone podcast, go back, check them all out. Go to cardinalsportszone.com, hit the drop-down menu, go to CSZ podcast, listen to all of them over and over and over again until there's no more to listen to, and then listen to them again. Check out all of our exclusive stories, interviews. We've got a couple of recent podcast interviews with Louisville assistant basketball coaches Ross McMains and Cahill Fennell. We're going to have more coming up here soon. We're hoping to get Coach Satterfield and Coach Mack on before the end of the year. That is the hope. They're very busy, so we're not sure we're going to be able to pull that off. But we do want to shout out everybody who's out there sharing the podcast. We're getting record listens every week. We had the most listened to week in Cardinal Sports Zone podcast history last week. Came close to hitting that number again this week. We just want to keep building and building, and we appreciate everybody out there that's sharing the podcast. We love y'all. Thanks for doing that. Thanks again for y'all's support. Until next time, this has been the Cardinal Sports Zone podcast. This has been Game Day Prep. This has been Slick Willie O, I guess. Has anybody ever called you that?
No, you're the first.
Okay, so we're going to make that a thing. Slick Willie O, and this has been the Cardinal Sports Zone podcast. Thank you, Will.
Thanks, Jerry. Appreciate it.
Pay attention.
I like being the first to do things. Slick
Yeah.
Willie O. So now we're going to do that little thing where you see on shows where they talk, and the show's ending, but they talk in the background. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Even if they're not saying anything, they're just mouthing.
No, they're just mouthing.
They're just mouthing something just to start conversation.
Just mouthing words.
Yeah.